Okay, so we are coming to the last panel for today before we move to the hackathon pitching and award ceremony. So as I mentioned, BUIDL Vietnam has not only technical presentation right here in the main track of the event, we also have workshop, you can see it from here. And after the last panel, we'll come to the pitching and award ceremony. So for the last panel, we'll discuss one of the biggest questions. Panel Venture Building in Southeast Asia, Mission Impossible in 2023. So please welcome our guest speaker, Lai Jungjing, co-CEO from D3 Labs. Please welcome Augie, investment partner from CMT Digital. Welcome Ben John, CMO P1X Metis Eco Accelerator. And our moderator, please welcome Imer, Senior Venture Builder from Longhush Ventures.
All right, awesome. Okay. Firstly, just want to thank Erica, Nicole, and the whole BUIDL team for arranging this. It's been a great couple of days, and I'm sure it's for everyone here and everyone else in the crowd as well. Great to see familiar faces and to connect again. So as you can see, we will be talking about just general Web3 investments and also venture building in Southeast Asia. And maybe we can start with a round of introductions. Maybe I'll just start then. Yeah, so my name's Amir. I am a senior venture builder from Longhash Ventures. Actually, I work more so in our accelerator arm, Longhash X. Within Longhash X, we basically work alongside ecosystem partners to bootstrap the community of developers. So in our upcoming cohort, it's around zero knowledge. So we work alongside ZK Sync, Scroll, Tyco, and etc. To help early stage developers grow their projects. Awesome, yeah.
Test. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Jones. I'm based in Thailand. I'm the CMO of P1X. We are a project incubator for the APAC region. We come out of the Metis Layer 2 ecosystem. Since Metis has now become a DAO, decentralized, we're one of the econodes, and we're the only one here in the APAC region. So we're here to just empower the APAC. We believe the APAC is like the most undervalued region in the world, and I think has the most potential to be number one in the world for Web3. And yeah, we have 3 projects, go-to projects coming out next month. It's a AI Web3 bot that you can drop into your communities. We have an LSD project coming out, and we're sharing our Metis Eco Node sequencer revenue with our members. And then after that, we are also launching a Web3 AI incubator for new projects from this region, and we're just excited to see what comes out of the brilliance of Vietnam and Thailand and the APAC region.
Hey everyone, my name is Augie. I'm an investor with CMT Digital. CMT Digital is a 25-year-old investment firm started out of the US around the genesis of electronic trading markets. It was a prop shop and market maker at the time, but I think what makes us different or unique versus other market makers is there has always, since inception, been a strong focus on leveraging technology in order to gain an edge in capital markets. And it's sort of that philosophy that led the founders from traditional derivatives trading to crypto trading to crypto VC, which we've been doing for the last 6 years now across 3 funds. We've since invested in over 100 companies, including Axie Infinity, Circle, FalconX, Coinbase, and many others. And I'm a partner and head of Asia, which means I spend most of my time speaking with founders from this part of the world. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Ying. I'm based in Indonesia, co-CEO of D3 Labs. Quick introduction of what D3 Labs does. So basically, we are more focusing on enterprise adoption of blockchain technology, primarily the financial market of Indonesia. So we do a lot of like programmable money exploration, tokenization of real assets with all the Indonesian banks like BCA, Mandiri, etc. So if you guys have any interest in exploring cross-border collaboration between Indonesia, fintech associations, or financial industry, do let us know. We're happy to chat with all you guys here.
Awesome, thanks so much. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we have a list of questions that we'll go through, but we're also open to questions from the crowd, which we'll leave at the end, and hopefully we won't run over time. Okay, so the first question that we have is, you know, given the current sentiment of, well, all markets, what is your view on VCs investing within Web3? And maybe you could start with well, yeah, with Ying.
Honestly, I feel in this current market, right, it's actually a lot more efficient than the last 1 to 2 years. Because like during the last 1 to 2 years, when I'm still with Toko Crypto, we have an investment arm. A lot of projects coming to us without really understanding what the market is about, but just coming in because of the amount of money they can raise, the popularity being a Web3 founder joining in the hype. So honestly, like among the last 1 year at least, when I left Toko Crypto to start D3 Labs, the expectations become a lot more reasonable, and we actually have time to really look at what works, what doesn't work, instead of pushing out over glorified thesis. And now when what the people who you see remains in the industry are really the more serious founders who are there to stay. So I would say, like, even though people say it's a bear market, but in terms of like building wise, this is actually one of the better times to build. Because previously from experience, Toko Crypto began in the 2018 bear market. That's the part where we spent a few years really navigating through and become relatively decent size during 2020 bull market. Yeah.
Awesome, great insights. Augie, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, maybe from the investment side, right? And I think actually your framing around all markets is an interesting point because, I mean, from my vantage point, it's actually never been a more challenging time for the asset class of VC more broadly, right? I think if you look at even the bluest of the blue, forget crypto for a second, right? The bluest of the blue chip funds in the US raising their latest vintage is 20, 50% down from what they raised last time. And I think the reason for that is like all of us, you know, builders, investors, everyone has sort of been spoiled by decades of very cheap money and very low interest rates. And that is changing. And I think that is affecting the entire asset class and basically has a lot of VCs like ourselves questioning some of the principles that we held dearly in terms of living by the power law, in terms of how we think about risk, in terms of, you know, this narrative around grow, pump money in, reach that valuation. Like, I think a lot of that stuff is up in the air. And I think that's for the better. You layer crypto on top of that, I think it's obviously even more challenging in the sense that, you know, to answer your question more directly, I think a lot of investors in the U.S. are focusing on sort of you know, safer bets, and what that tends to mean, at least over the first quarter of this year, is infrastructure projects based primarily in the U.S. Now that is also changing with some of the headwinds that we've been seeing this quarter. But my point is, I think it's a challenging time for the asset class. I think it's even more challenging time for crypto in general.
I would love to double click on that, but perhaps we'd love to hear, Ben, your thoughts on this as well.
Test. Yeah, just to echo Lai and Augie's sentiment. I think the general intelligence and our like understanding of what Web3 has increased, and so just the you know what we're building is different. But I definitely feel like this is an opportunity to build smarter things, to build things that people understand, and also things that don't things that will work in the bear, but also like it will take off in the bull. So like those things like are battle tested. You have just more intelligence, I guess.
So I guess from an investor's perspective, there's less FOMO, there's more time for due diligence, and I guess hype is a lesser factor in this current market. I would love to double click on what you mentioned earlier on how crypto as an asset class is facing a really challenging time. We've seen some prominent VCs sort of tweak their narrative from being Web3 dominant or Web3 focused to just being a general technology investor, right? So why do you think that is? Are people just moving away from crypto because they see this phase ending, or do you think there's a strategic timing issue here? Okay, yeah, I would love your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other firms, obviously, but I think there's a few factors at play, right? I mean, momentum investing is a very real and viable strategy.
Yep.
I mean, look at your favorite LinkedIn influencer who was posting top 10 crypto projects and is now posting top 10 AI tools. Like,
Yeah.
you can, I mean, you can fault them, but what I'm saying is that is a strategy. That is a viable way to invest and to build and to live your life, La. What's the next trend to focus on?
Yeah.
That's not what we here on this panel focus on. But again, I think different strokes for different folks. So that's sort of one thing. But I think beyond that, from the data points that I've seen, the conversations that I've had both with investors and LPs, there actually are very existential questions about the future of the category that are being asked that maybe were not asked in the previous cycle. Questions like, what are going to be the use cases of this technology beyond speculation-linked use cases, which have some early product market fit, I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
But those types of questions, I think, do need to be answered because it's sort of like, what is the long-term prospects of this industry and how large will it become outside of just trading and the associated industries?
Yeah, yeah. And like, do you have any thoughts on this or anything else you'd like to add?
I would say like in Indonesia, especially speaking from Indonesia point of view, like during the previous bull market, even a lot of Web2 funds suddenly became FOMO into the Web3 space. But that's where we see like at this bear market, they start to pivot to other things like what Augie mentioned, what you mentioned about AI. But we do see like, let's say in the previous cycle, the funds like, let's say, Dragonfly, Spartan, they are there, continue deploying during the bear market, and during the previous bull market, they are the one who harvests it. There's no right or wrong, but it's just really like what is the TCs that each fund have for themselves.
Yep.
If they think that by going in quick, exiting quick, following the hype, can gain them returns, that's a fair point. If you prefer like just going long term with your belief in Web3, that's a fair point. And I think adding on into like what Augie mentioned about like just speculation, I feel personally in the Web3 space over the last few years, there's a lot of tech that's built up that can be actually be migrated into like a more real-world use case. Like let's say even you think about Uniswap, Liquidity Pool, or the DeFi swaps, all those. If all these have been migrated into like let's say a real-world forex system, instead of token to token, it become like currencies to currencies. It technically can start powering like all those peer-to-peer forex exchange kind of system where you don't really see in real world yet. But I think we all acknowledge that at the end of the day, regulations are still the one that is moving, swaying. But we do see that if you start swapping out all these technology or asset class with real world assets, we do see a potential in that.
Yeah, I think that's those are very great points. Ben would love to get your view on this. Yeah, as you mentioned, you have also expanded your scope to try and leverage, or rather get a better understanding and a front view on upcoming.
Yeah, AI, as everyone knows, hot. It's what's hot right now. OpenAI is the #1 biggest company in the world over Google. It's most powerful. It has the gold. The gold is data. And everyone's talking about it, and it's in a bear market time. It's like it gives hope to people. It's an emotional thing, and so the two most likely partners, Web3 and AI. How can they? These are the questions we're all asking. Building infrastructure to how AI can help, expand in like Web3 adoption, all kinds of things. And so just one thing that we're aiming for is just like the undervalue of KOLs, undervalue of communities in all like every single project. You know, just we're using Discord, we're using Telegram. The bots are crap. You know, they're not that great. And so just, you know, what if we got, you know, AI and Web3 together and incentivized using a DAO, giving like, you know, crypto as, you know, incentives, something like that. And then like from there, brilliant ideas. I've been talking to different people just how that crossover could be, but it's something that's very new, and we are in the midst of like OpenAI and Midjourney's group, Stable Diffusion. Like they're two different thoughts. You know, Stable Diffusion is open source, OpenAI is closed. Web3, we're open. Everything's on chain. So how do we move forward? Where are we going? This is exciting in a bear market, you know, and it's really cool because a lot of the big companies were started bear market, like Lai was saying, like Facebook, everybody, like, so that's, yeah, that's, I don't know what, if that answers
No,
the
I
question.
think it does. I would also like to double click on what Ying mentioned. I think for those devs here who are, you know, hard-workingly building in this current market, there are VCs that strategies are still to deploy fully into Web3, and Short Chill, we're one of them. We still have this belief that, you know, investments within a bear market will yield the best returns. And we're starting to see with what the panel mentioned earlier, higher quality builders stay. And, you know, the rest will, well, explore elsewhere. That's at least our thesis. Now, I would love to go a bit earlier in the stage of, you know, product life cycle and talk about early stage venture building. Want to ask Ying, do you think now is a great time to do venture building with Web3 projects?
I would say like, cause for D3, we are still relatively early stage, let's say pre-seed round. What we have seen like investors asking questions, the kind of question that investors ask are very different from what is being asked like a year ago. Like people talking about, investors asking about like profitability, revenue, which are questions that VCs would not ask during the bull market. It's all about chasing numbers, higher valuation. So I would say like for founders who really have a clear thesis on what they are going to build and have really good research instead of just jumping into a hype like another NFT project, I think these are the builders that should continue building. But builders who are not clear, who just like, cause we meet founders before like, oh, I see these people, they build NFT, they raise 5 million. I want to raise a 5 million for NFT, but what is the NFT project for? People don't know. They don't understand. What is it really built for? Nobody knows. That's why I would say is like, not all founders, specific founders who have very clear vision of what they want, able to withstand the tough questions asked by investors, they should be the one building it. And that's what I think we've seen. Like when ourselves, we managed to prove to investors that we are building something that's sustainable. In fact, a lot of VCs will come to you directly. You don't really need to go out and beg for investment. Yeah, that is, I think, the fact of life where quality projects will get more fundings.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, you know, longer due diligence process and a bit more thought from an investor's point of view when deploying capital. I would, if you don't mind, I would just like to double click on that. And at least in my point of view, especially when dealing with early stage projects within Web3, a lot of developers care about building tooling, right? You know, so with all these new infrastructure projects coming up, everyone's thinking about building the best randomization tool through zero knowledge, for example. That doesn't necessarily have a clear business model, but we do need these people to build sort of the infrastructure that could build great projects. So at least in my point of view, I think that's quite interesting for an early stage investment or a grant. What do you think about this? Maybe Augie, if you want to take this. Do you think investments in tools without a clear sight of a business model is something that investors could entertain?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and one that you know, we as a team at CMT think about all the time, right? Like, you know, we don't have any real work to be done, so we just theorize apps versus infra, these sorts of things. No, but jokes aside, it's a very good question, right? Just because, I mean, that was the point a little bit I was trying to make earlier, which is, I stand on one side of this debate, and frankly, I have teammates that invest a lot in infrastructure, and I think have a slightly different opinion. But my view of where we are today as an industry is that we have at least built enough infrastructure to where some viable and interesting and useful applications can now be built. That was not the case, let's say, 3 to 5 years back.
Okay.
And so what that means is, I think that we need to start answering this question as an industry: what will be the use cases, mainstream consumer apps, outside of speculation-linked ones that will ultimately drive new users into the space, right? So like, I think gaming, there's some green shoots there, but there's many, many other things that potentially this technology could be used for to answer that question. So I'm a little bit more on the app side of things, but like I said, I think it's probably an and answer as opposed to an or, if that makes sense.
Great, thanks so much for that. Ben, would love your thoughts. Going back to the first question, the initial question on helping early stage projects. Do you think Web3 venture building is something that should be focused on right now?
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely think like the bear market has a bad connotation just because of obvious reasons. But it is where the things are built. Like, it's all the infrastructure is built. This is where those who have foresight, and this is like the kind of, like you said, like we have like Augie said, we have infrastructure now that we didn't have like a year ago, 2 years ago, like, and there was a lot of chaos, but there's less, it seems like less chaos than it was before. So it just seems it's just much more opportunistic right at this moment, where if you have an idea and you have a good team behind you and you want to build something in this infrastructure, let's build it. Because why not? Especially in Southeast Asia, especially in these countries where through the COVID epidemic, it's been tough. But like the resiliency and being able to build something that will work now, like let's say a LSD project or something that can just liquid stick, something that works now, so that it can, and when things turn around, you can take it to another level. But just it's somehow it's the perfect time to build, I would say. It's
Can I add on?
Yeah.
I think another question that I realized during this bear market is like, when we talk about fundraising, we need to acknowledge that even in Web3, there's two kinds: equity or token.
Yeah.
The existing of token, honestly, I think in a lot of the current market scenario, it serves actually as a distraction. And when just now when you mentioned about like, does it make sense for infra to even have a token? Yeah, I personally believe like token should be there for, let's say, application kind of project, but not infra. Yeah, infra equity makes more sense so that it can be acquired by the bigger applications to build on. Yeah, then I think there's another question about for Web3 builders, like tokens or equity. It has been an ongoing debate for years. Last time during the bull market is any company can launch a token because every investor will still go in. Yeah, but now is the time to really identify like which mode is really the better way moving forward.
Yep, that's definitely an added layer of complication when it comes to the investing world with Web3 VCs. But I would love to go back to what you mentioned, especially in this region, Southeast Asia. What is your view and how bullish are you with the Southeast Asian market? Ben? Yeah.
We're extremely bullish on Southeast Asia, extremely bullish on Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. It's the most undervalued region, in my opinion, in the world. Vietnam is the #1 user adoption rate for Web3. That means you're more likely to find someone walking down the street here. And actually, a friend of mine just told me a story. He rents here. He's from here, and his landlord is a grandfather. He's an older man. He came up to him and he said, "Hey, can I pay you in crypto?" Like, name a place in the world that an older person comes to a younger person and says, "Hey, put that fiat away. Let's use crypto." I'm like, what is the secret sauce here? And also, like, if you know, like, this is the other thing of foresight. It's all about mindset, right? So, like, if you're like, we've been in the trenches. We're hustlers, hustle, hustle, hustle. Try hard. We went through COVID. We went through this bear market right now. We're gonna build something, you know, and adoption is here, and it's almost as if the community is behind you, you know, like, and so I'm very bullish, and we're very bullish at P1X. We're launching our incubation program next month. Any chain, any project, mostly it's just Web3, DeFi, AI, and of course I'm one of the ones that, you know, we're jumping on the AI wave, but yeah, just somehow just the resiliency of Southeast Asia just kind of is perfect for innovators and for people who want to build something with very little resource. And like the investors right now, the comprehension of what we're trying to do and the filtration of all the stuff that's like, you know, shitcoin stuff, like, just, it's all we can filter it out. It's easier to filter it out. You can pick which one and you just go.
I love that you mentioned, you know, that Vietnam's #1 in the world for crypto adoption. This is actually from a report by Chainalysis. And on top of Vietnam being #1 in the world, this region also owns for 3 or 4 of the top 20. So it very much just underlines your point that, you know, this region is undervalued from a you know, global narrative perspective, but there are a lot of adoption going on here. Now, I think that in my point of view, the challenge is, yes, we have people adopting crypto. Now, we also know that the tech literacy in this region is high. How do we connect the two and, you know, motivate or get people to be incentivized to build great applications on top of the already established infrastructure that we already have? So yeah, I mean, me personally, very bullish on the space. Augie, would love your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this one is kind of... Okay, let me try this one. So Web 2, in Southeast Asia, I'm actually extremely bearish, but maybe I'll save those opinions for myself. Web 3, I am more optimistic for many of the same reasons that my fellow panelists have shared, which is, I mean, actually, they go hand in hand, right? I think the challenge is with Web 2 in Southeast Asia is the heterogeneity of the markets. It's very tough for a startup based in one country to address profitably the entire region, despite these narratives that VCs will paint. But that's not true in crypto, where markets are sort of global from day one. You can have a strong builder in Jakarta, in Ho Chi Minh, who's building a global product by nature from day one. And I think those examples have already started to crop up, right? In Ho Chi Minh, I would say in particular, I'm also very excited just because it strikes me as sort of the perfect confluence of very strong engineering talent, an incredible work ethic, and you know, kind of a Vietnam to the world story that's already been proven in other categories. Like when I was at my previous firm, we used to invest in SaaS companies that were built from Ho Chi Minh, but were selling to clients across the world. So that go-to-market motion, I think, is also there in certain instances. So I'm very bullish in crypto, maybe less so in other categories.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think even within Web3, we have Sky Mavis here, and also, as you mentioned, it's quite global when it comes to Web3 compared to Web2, right? There's a lot less locality being a factor of how much reach a product or a team can go. One thing, and this may be a contrarian view, I feel like, you know, an advantage of Vietnam compared to other markets is that, yes, any project has a global reach, but when you're trying to find product market fit, when you're trying to iterate, sometimes you would want closer and shorter feedback times between your early users. And clearly, given Vietnam's like the is the #1 most adopted country in the world with crypto, this is a great market for you to you know, iterate your early MVP per se. So yeah, would love your point on this, Ying.
I personally feel that for, let's say for Southeast Asia, at the end of the day, you look at history, right? In history, markets move one from Europe to US to China. It's all because of the growth that each country possess and the market size. At the end of the day, I think the one last areas where the world haven't really see big growth is actually the Southeast Asia market. So I'm aligned with that. South Asia will be the next big thing, not just for Web3, but also for traditional maybe economic growth. That's my view on it lah. And I agree with what Augie say. At the end of the day, South Asia, how is it different from the other big markets, right? It's about the fragmentation of each country. Different government, different regulation, different currencies. And for me, my view is that South Asia having ASEAN, if ASEAN side can really do something together and start to push more direct peer-to-peer within South Asia kind of collaboration, then there's a big, I would say a big milestone or big trigger that can boost the bigger adoption within the Southeast Asia region. Yeah.
Thanks so much for that. I realize we have 10 minutes left. Actually, we have quite a lot more questions, but going to the next step, right? Now, let's be dev heavy now. For all the founders here that are listening, how do they find a great idea that they could commit to in this market? Do you have any tips for them, Ying?
I would have to say it will be a time where funds don't come easy. Founders should be more cash spending aware.
Okay.
Let's say for Toko Crypto Days, we raised 1 million for 3 years. It's a tough time. Founders at this kind of market shouldn't be lured in because of the kind of money that they see. It should be really for passion and sustaining through and building stuff. Been there, done that. It's not easy. If you ask me if I want to do it again, I would say I would rather not. It's really not easy to go through, and I think founders need to be mentally prepared for it lah. I think, yeah.
How about when it comes to the ideation stage? How do you recommend founders to, where do you think they should look to come up with an idea? I mean, we have so many opportunities around. Sometimes a breadth of options, the worst handcuffs, because now you're stuck at the decision step. How do you navigate around this?
I mean, for me, what I feel is like a lot of things that in Web3 is not like whole new invented. A lot of problems that so-called Web3 are trying to solve are already seen in Web2. Like looking back at the Web2 and seeing what part of Web2 is not being able to done properly, but the potential of blockchain being it decentralized, being it peer-to-peer, being it instantaneous settlement, I think those are the area where a lot of founders can actually refer back and then see what makes sense to actually bring into Web3. Like, not everything need to be like super creative or rocket science, like coming out from nothing. Yeah, actually in the past companies that's being built, like there are a lot of good reference to actually for founders to look back and refer to it.
So if I may say, I think right now as builders, at least for me, right, if I were to categorize it to two different buckets, I can solve existing problems within the Web3 space, like for example, scalability of Ethereum, for example, right? Or look at pre-existing use cases even prior to Web3. And there's a plethora of problems there too. So you're saying that that's potentially another avenue that people should double click on. Awesome. Thanks so much for that. Augie, would love your thoughts as well on, how do they navigate around this ideation step?
Yeah, no, I broadly agree with what CY shared. I mean, maybe just a couple other mental models. One, I do believe that solving a problem that you yourself as a builder have experienced is oftentimes very helpful, just because one, like, the ferocity by which you will try to solve this problems even when time gets tough is will be there. It's not just something that you've kind of picked from the idea tree. So something that you personally experienced, you felt the pain points. Maybe you're a developer, you've seen, like, you've chewed glass and tried to build certain tools, and thus you've kind of spun out into this dev tool project. Like, that I think is a good place to start. What are the problems you personally have experienced? And then, yeah, maybe another frame of mind is very much what CY mentioned, which is, I think now is a good time to also just begin to ask ourselves the first principles questions that maybe in the past we were not, right? Basic things like, for this particular product, does crypto, blockchain, Web3 create a 10x better user experience? It's a very straightforward question, but I think one that, like I said, oftentimes was not asked, because you can decentralize anything, theoretically. But does it actually create value for the users, I think is an important question. And sometimes, in the Web 2 instances, it's very clear that decentralizing this entity, this business model, etc., could yield results. So I think those are just two mental models, but broadly I agree with what has been shared already.
Thanks so much for that. That's great insights. Ben, we'd love your thoughts on this. Ideation, how do we navigate?
Yeah. Yeah, just to, echoing what these guys, what my fellow panelists have said, it's true. But one thing I would just like to highlight is what they've also mentioned. Augie mentioned was users. You should start with the users, and KOLs are, I would say, undervalued as well. KOLs control the future of whatever you're building. So think of it this way. Anyone could fork your product like 5 years from now. You do the development, someone can fork your product, but they can't fork your community. They can't fork your users and your user base. And so if you really serve your users, solve their problem, really give them like a great time, great whatever, they will stay loyal to your brand. I know like nowadays people aren't as loyal as they were before, but in the same way, they're used to you, they trust you, whatever you're building. So there's a lot of problems that could be solved, like using first principles thinking, like Augie was mentioning, like how can we fix this, how can we do this? But know that it's not just the problem, it's also the users that you're going to be connecting with. And so these users are basically your most valuable group. So like just keeping your community together around your brand around your, whatever you're solving is the most important part. And whoever does that the best wins. And so that's for the bear market when you're building. Don't just think like, oh, I'm going to fix this and everybody's going to love it. No. You have to connect with the people, have to connect with each other. You have to connect with your brand connects. It's as emotional, some kind of thing. And you journey together through this bear, get to the bull, and then fly together, to the moon. That's what everybody says.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very great point. When it comes to moat, this is a conversation I have with plenty of the founders through our programs. What is the moat in Web3? If you're truly Web3, at one point you're going to open source everything. And as Ben mentioned, one thing you can't fork is your community. That's the main thing you can't fork. So going back to Ying's point on having passion for what you're building, and Augie's point on having experience with what you're building will truly matter, because then, within Web3, the beautiful thing is value, if done right, will always go to the contributor. It won't go to the biggest player who holds the gates or holds the keys. Everyone has the chance to challenge the biggest player in the room. So I think that's the beauty of Web3, and I completely agree with your points earlier. Now, I think we have 5 or 10 minutes, the display's kind of off, and would love to open the floor to questions, but before that, quickly, how do we get in touch? How do people here get in touch with you, Ying?
There's Telegram. You can connect me through Telegram at Chongying Lai, or my co-CEO Tigran, or my email cy@d3labs.io.
Awesome. Do you have a closing line? Maybe just a closing remark for the retail investors, VCs, or even the developers here?
Maybe for developers, if you have something you really believe in, you already go through all your thought process, just do it. Don't think so much. A lot of times people think too much, they miss the golden period.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much.
And yeah, you can reach me on Twitter. It's @AugieElog. And no comments. I was probably like the downer on the panel. I didn't mean it to be that way. I think it's more lively.
Diversity, man.
I'm super bullish, and I think all of us here are. Just stay the course, and we'll get there.
You can just reach me at @BenJoeFlow, or just P1X Labs. That's our incubator. And yeah, my last thing is let's build together. That's why we're here. Build together. And I really feel like community, like us, it's just a different culture with Web3. We're not, holding things where we understand like we're share. But so just let's build together. Let's connect. If you're a developer, jump into our incubator next month. If you have a community, use our AI bot. We would love to iterate with you guys. So.
Awesome, awesome. And for me, on Twitter, MR0X, to the developers here as well, if you're keen to be the next Akala Astara balancer, the reason why I shield these is because they were also graduates from our accelerator programs. So if you are looking to build and want a little bit of guidance, feel free to message me on Twitter, and we'll see where we could collaborate together as well. Now, love to open the floor to any potential questions from the crowd. So if any of you have any, feel free to raise your hand and we could pass the mic. No questions? All right. Oh, there's a question here. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for a lot of insightful things. So, I'm actually building a dynamic NFT protocol. So, I'd like to ask your views on that, like the view from the VC guys and also from builder view. Yeah. Okay, so this is the dynamic NFT protocol. So basically, so Chainlink is building it, and also some guys are building it. And basically, our view is that the NFT shouldn't be static, but it should evolve over time. Let's say you have an object identity, and then as you be more active on chain, you trade more on Uniswap, you land more on AV, your object identity should be changed. Another example is that you have an in-game item, and as you play more, you win more, and then your in-game item should evolve, which can result in it can earn more money for you. So there's some guy building it like Chainlink, and some NFT collection like Moonbird, or like Xerion DNA NFT. So yeah, so I'd like to ask your view on that.
Maybe I can, yeah. So I think in the future, right, any Web3 games that has that uses NFTs as part of their in-game assets will have to be dynamic, and I think that's the right direction. I think the bigger question here is really asking what is the main problem you're trying to solve in the short term as well. So for example, going back to, I think Ben, you mentioned this, hone in on your users, ask them, like, in your experience of playing any Web3 games, is this something that is needed now? Because it's some ideas are a bit too early and some ideas are late. So timing and solving a current problem is something that has to be considered, and that's my point of view. Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right, cool. Any other questions from the crowd? No? Okay, cool. I think that ends our session then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. And before you leave, could you please stand up together and we'll have a photo. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the last panel for the main track event. So there'll be no more panel and no more speeches. However, we are waiting for the most anticipating part of BUIDL Vietnam, that is the hackathon. So please stay around here. We'll be back with the hackathon pitching and award ceremonies. So please stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the hackathon pitching. Thank you very much. Now please take some time to have a break.